Here's 1 month with the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. Welcome everybody, welcome to Appleinsider. It is Andrew here, and you can find me on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. And it has been about a month since the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max have landed in my hands. Give or take a day or two. And after daily use, here are the features that stood out and have continued to impress. This is my 1 month iPhone 13 Pro review. There are quite a few new features on these phones. Check out my other videos where I go through everything that's new, but a lot of the excitement is just around the marketing hype. And they aren't really useful or noticeable just day to day. But there are 3 things that have stood out to me: battery life, the ProMotion display, and those new cameras. So let's talk about those 3 things just in a little more detail. So here's the thing about battery life on the iPhone 13 Pro. I am not the best judge, and truthfully, I haven't noticed any difference in battery life. But there's a good reason for that. See, before I went to the iPhone 13 Pro, I was using the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So I went with Apple's previous longest battery to Apple's next step up battery. So technically, I dropped down a level in terms of battery life. So for me, day to day, I'm not seeing any gains. But that said, I'm also not seeing any losses either. Apple says iPhone 12 Pro Max, my old phone, gets 20 hours of video playback, while the iPhone 13 Pro, what I'm using now, gets 22. Honestly, it's not a huge difference, so as I've been using it day to day, I just haven't noticed the battery life being too much better. But if you were someone who went from a 12 Pro to a 13 Pro, the difference is huge. And going from the 12 Pro Max to the 13 Pro Max is even better. iPhone 13 Pro Max gets 28 hours of video playback, 8 hours more than the 12 Pro Max. I think it's actually pretty impressive that I was able to drop down to a smaller phone and not only see no degradation in battery life, but it's actually just even a little bit better. So I turn to all of you to get your opinions on battery life, and of everything you told me at the new phones, battery life was the #1 new features that you guys told me was most impressive on the new 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. ProMotion is another great new feature, but for me it's hard to rely on that just yet. Very few third-party apps have been updated to support it, and I presume it will get better with time, but as it stands, it's only noticeable in really Apple's first-party apps. It is noticeable though, and I can tell a difference, especially when comparing to an older device. Many of you agreed, and I heard from countless users who adore the ProMotion display, and it is a nice upgrade, but certainly nothing essential. As nice as it is, I probably wouldn't have been swayed either way when reconsidering buying this phone after a month. I really like ProMotion, but I just don't see it as a reason that I needed to upgrade. So whether it existed or didn't exist in this phone, it probably wouldn't have changed my mind. But I'm glad it's here. Hands down, what I think though is the best new feature of the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max is the upgraded camera system. Sometimes it can be a so-so upgrade for iPhone cameras, but this year I can't express how big of a difference the new cameras make. When I head out with my wife and we leave our Nikon behind and we snap a lot of photos on our iPhones, her iPhone, even at only a year old, the quality is so much better on my new iPhone 13 Pro than her 12 Pro. She finds herself insisting on using my phone every single time we need to take a photo. Colors haven't changed all that much, and there's still the occasional hiccups with Smart HDR, but everything else here is just lovely. Photographic styles are a nice touch, and I almost wish you could save a couple presets outside of Apple's own for jumping between in the future. You can modify Apple's presets to get to exactly to your liking, and I really wish I could just save those and jump between them instead of having to choose Apple style and then adjusting it every time I want to move between. Macro photography is outstanding, and the pictures are crisp, vibrant, and they look amazing. You can see a few of these example shots that I simply can't get over. The The only downside to those macro shots is, at least at launch, it was automatically switching between your wide and ultra wide lenses trying to go into macro mode. But I didn't always want to do that. Fortunately, with 15.1, Apple has enabled a new macro toggle, so you can turn this feature off. You can manually switch over to macro mode by switching to the ultra wide lens, or you can leave it on auto and it'll jump between as it's doing now. I really like that you have that option to control this. Apple is using that ultra-wide lens for those macro shots, and with its new wider aperture going from an f2.4 to an f1.8, there's a lot more light that is being let into the sensor. Low light shots with this and even middle light shots with this camera look so much more impressive and so much less grain and noise. The Tele lens is a huge deal too. For the iPhone 12 Pro users, it went from a 2 times to a 3 times zoom, and for iPhone 12 Pro Max, it went from 2.5 times zoom to 3 times optical zoom. But it means much more than that. Looking at this shot of a winery over the vineyard, it was taken with a 3 times Tele lens at about 120mm focal length, which is just about over 4 times optical zoom, and it looks fantastic. Looking at my wife's iPhone 12 Pro doing the same thing at the same focal distance, it is not even close. Hers was much grainier. It was not even close to being as sharp. Just another reason why she keeps turning to my phone. It's a year older, and yet she's like abandoning her iPhone because there's such a stark difference between these photos. In bright light with the wide angle lens, you're not going to notice a huge difference. But in any other lighting scenarios, like middle light, indoors, low light, using the Tele lens, macro shots, the new iPhones just excel in almost every way. As I was saying, using my iPhone 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max every day, some things you don't notice, but some things you do. For me, I still notice the ProMotion. I still notice those battery improvements. Even like I would expect a lower quality battery here, but the fact that I didn't step down in battery is still a big deal to me. And it makes it through the day, and I'm still loving MagSafe even a year later when it debuted on the iPhone 12. But these cameras are the biggest deal for me and have totally made upgrading to the 13 Pro worth it. But let me know what you guys think over on Twitter at Andrew_OSU. And if you want to grab the best deals on all the new iPhones, follow the links down below in the description.